A Nefarious Nightmare contains themes that may be explicit or triggering for some. Specific warnings and disclaimers will be mentioned in the show notes. A Nefarious Nightmare assumes all parties that are mentioned in these cases to be innocent unless proven guilty in a court of law. Listener discretion is strongly advised. Welcome to Season 4.
I'm Amanda Cronin.
And I'm Courtney Fenner. And this is A Nefarious Nightmare. Hello, and welcome to A Nefarious Nightmare. I'm Courtney, and today I wanted to drop a bonus episode of an interview that I had with my anonymous friend, and we'll call him Johnny, short for Johnonymous. He heads the DFW Exposures group, and I've been wanting to chat with him and get you all acquainted with him for some time now. But before I get into the interview, I have a very important update from Holly Murphy. If you don't remember Holly, she was one of Adrienne Vildusay's latest victims that we spoke with in our Minding the Beehive series, and I did ask her to give a brief update so you all could hear it from her. With that, here's Holly, and immediately after that will be the interview with DFW Exposures.
Hello, it's Holly. I'm sending a general update on behalf of the bees. So Adrienne currently has 2 upcoming trials for which he's being charged with rape in the first degree and assault in the first degree, as well as a few other charges. Those court dates are pending. He has been arrested in both cases and extradited from Arizona to both Washington State and Maryland. Unfortunately, he was released on both with a very low bail of $20,000. It was something we tried to fight the whole time and even reached out to the news channels in Tucson and Baltimore. And the Washington News shared something about Kitty's case as well. But it did not work out, and currently, he is back in Arizona. I know that for his pre-trial hearings, he can do those virtually for the Washington trial. In Baltimore, we are not set up that way, so he will likely only be coming back once it does go to circuit court. What I've been told about this process is that it gets dragged out a lot, so that just leaves a huge waiting game for all of us bees, but we're on top of it like we always are, and anytime that we've seen him on a dating site, which we know that he's been on at least 12 in the past, maybe more, we have reported him with his charges to each dating site. And so far, we've gotten him removed off of 2. He may still be lingering on others, but it doesn't seem that he is active, at least as of this time, thankfully. But we know with him, it could always change. He seems to go through periods of being paranoid and hiding out to basically being arrogant again and showing that he does not care about any of the victims that he's hurt or may potentially hurt. So he's still a very dangerous person to be out on the streets right now. But those are my only updates right now. We did make it public very recently that we are also filming a docuseries with Chris Hansen, formerly of NBC's To Catch a Predator. We started filming with him back in May. We're very excited about that opportunity and the help that we've had with him from behind the scenes this whole time. It was very hard to keep a secret, so it's it's a relief to be able to let everybody know that we've been making big strides as far as that goes. I don't have a date on when that will be released, but it will definitely be out there as soon as I'm allowed to make it available to the public.
Hey everyone, welcome back to A Nefarious Nightmare for this very special bonus episode. Currently, the plan is to have this out this Friday. So you guys are going to be getting 3 episodes this week instead of your normal just 1. And I think these are good episodes to have out ahead of our final episode for season 4, which is going to be a very brutal and heavy one. But I don't want to give too much away. So right now, I want to introduce everybody to my anonymous friend from the DFW Exposures Facebook group. We're going to call him Johnonymous, but Johnny for short. So welcome to our podcast. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and visit. Real quick to kick this off, could you just tell everybody that's listening a little bit about you and what you do?
Well, it's a good question. I've been doing what I call is a type of private investigation for the past 6 or 7 years now. I started out up in Illinois, and I moved it down to DFW. I also do it in Florida. I've done it in Wisconsin, Arkansas. What we do is we go after would-be child predators, sometimes actual child predators. We try to stop people before the crime, which what we like to call it, because when the cop gets intervened with somebody, they usually have to arrest them after the crime. So we want to stop them before the crime. So we get on apps like Whisper, Facebook, dating apps like OkCupid. I've been on POF, Tinder, and all that kind of stuff. And we pose as an underage kid. I mean, I've done it anywhere from 7 years old all the way up to 14 years old. We pose as a child, and like I said, we try to stop the child predator before they actually make the crime. We expose them on Facebook on our page at DFW Exposures. We put all their information out. We contact their family, their workspace, just everything in their life. I've talked to cops before about it, and they say what we do is more justice than them getting arrested, because when someone gets arrested, they kind of just go underneath the table, and no one really knows they're arrested. They may be put on the sex offenders list, but you have to Google to find that guy. No one's really Googling, when you meet someone. So we make sure everybody knows. It's just basically our mission is just to stop it. I mean, at least scare them out of stop doing that crime, if that makes sense.
Nice. Yeah. One reason why I really wanted to get you on our podcast, as I told you before we started recording, is we have similar goals. And I get it. You had said that there are police officers and law enforcement that say that what you do is a lot more than normal justice that you would see in everyday life. And I agree that a lot of these people get like a smack on the wrist and woohoo, okay, go away type thing. Mm-hmm. Whereas there's people that do far less and are serving 28 years in prison.
Yeah, definitely.
It's irritating. And it's sad that, people like us have to do all of the footwork to make it easier on law enforcement just so they can take it seriously. So, to anybody that's listening, give us some grace sometimes. But I'm very, very I admire you and what you do a lot. So, and I'm sure, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners will say the same. Real quick, is there anything that has happened that has prompted you or inspired you to do this?
There's been a few incidents. One I'm not a big fan of talking about. I mean, I'm a victim myself when I was younger, but it kind of all happened on accident. Like I said, it was about 7 or 8 years ago. I was talking to my best friend at the time. It was a female. She was on Tinder, or no, she was on Meet Me. I don't know if you ever heard of Meet Me.
Yeah.
So she was on Meet Me, and this guy was messaging her, just sending him unsolicited dick pictures, being very sexual, and he wouldn't stop, and he got her number somehow. And I was like, just tell him you're 14 years old, see if he'll just leave you alone. As soon as she said that, it kind of turned them on even more.
Whoa.
And so I ended up posting it on Facebook at the time, and I started a Facebook page. I just put it out there, and it got shared like 20-something thousand times. And I was like, I think we may be onto something here. And I kind of started doing what I do now.
Nice. There's got to be some kind of like satisfaction and gratification that you get from exposing these predators.
And there is, and I hate to say that because it sounds weird.
Nah.
Not only that, I like getting these dudes off the streets. I mean, I've got them arrested before, but when I don't know if you've seen, I go meet them in person sometimes, and the satisfaction is when you see that they see that they're busted.
Yeah.
Like they see me instead of a 14-year-old girl. Yeah. It is satisfying to see their face and knowing that they're fucking caught. Excuse my language.
No, you're good.
But it is a satisfaction. But I don't want to say it makes me happy because people say, "Oh, do you get off catching these guys?" No, I don't get off catching them, but it is satisfying.
Yeah.
Getting them caught and letting everybody know who they are.
Right. It's kind of like doing a good gesture, and the reward. It kind of speaks for itself. Yeah,
definitely.
I feel that. So real quick, because you were talking about how people ask you, oh, do you get gratification off of this? And you're like, no, but kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
You're familiar with Jason.Vukovich, right?
Yes, yes, I do. I heard that from you.
Yeah, we interviewed him. He was actually our very first episode, and then we scrapped that episode because we were newbies and didn't know what we were doing, and re-interviewed him. He was up for parole, and they, from what I'm understanding, they're keeping him in prison until the full 28 years is up, and that just makes me sad. But that's kind of a callback to what we were talking about earlier. He's doing that much time for beating up essentially 4 pedophiles.
I mean, there's a limit. Everybody wants to beat the crap out of these guys, but you gotta keep yourself out of jail to be able to keep doing it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I've actually been arrested for it too.
Oh wow.
And so back in Illinois again, I didn't beat anybody up, but it's a long story, but police hate that we do it. Some police departments hate that we do it. And police department wanted to get me to stop, so they ended up putting 2 felony charges on me over. They tried to get me with unlawful restraint and obstruction of justice. Ended up getting dropped because a big attorney out of Illinois represented me for free, and it's just there's old political stuff, but you can't lay hands on these guys as much as you want to. But unfortunately, Jason did that, and he robbed them.
Yeah, I'm just glad because whenever I first heard about his story, I was like, I was under the impression that he murdered them. Yeah, and that's a common misconception. No, he just beat the crap out of them. It just makes me angry because one of his, I hate to call him that, but one of his victims was like, oh, it's just not fair. He just completely ruined my life, and now I can never get a job. Bro.
Sounds fair to me.
You did that to yourself.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It sounds fair to me. I hope these dudes never get hired.
Yeah, for real. Especially in a child serving organization. Don't 100%. Even volunteer because So before I get into the other stuff, do you have any goals with what you're doing? Just an overall goal?
Yeah, I mean, we do. At first, I was like, oh, I want to expand this. I want to get a bunch of people to follow so we can get recognized and doing all this stuff. It's not about the followership for me anymore. It's just, I just want to continue to be able to get these guys. I want to get on a working level with some police departments so we can work with police and get these guys put away. Not only can we blast them, but they can, serve prison time, be put on the sex offenders list. And in Texas, we're actually getting a lot of recognition with police, and it's actually helping out a lot. Here soon, we might be doing operations with Texas Rangers.
Nice.
And in a state police here, they've contacted us. We're working on getting me licensed as a PI in Texas because I was in Missouri, but not here. And we're going to work, and we're going to have sting operations alongside with the Texas Rangers, which is going to help out a lot.
Awesome. I'm very happy about that. So real quick, one thing that I had noticed, and maybe this is something that you can kind of let listeners or would-be watchers of your page know. I know, and because this has happened to me, I once ran a group about protecting children from sex trafficking. Mm-hmm. And Facebook ended up taking our stuff down for no reason. I noticed that within social media, there's a lot of shadow banning going on when it comes to like speaking out about stuff like that. Do you possibly, could you maybe expand on what you've had to experience with that, and also maybe potentially give any kind of theory as to why you think that that's happening?
Yeah, I've experienced shadow banning quite a bit. I've got my pages shut down. When I first started in Illinois, I've had like 2 or 3 pages shut down. I had 700,000 followers on one page, and it just completely got shut down. And the thing with Facebook is, I don't want to get into like the politics of it, right. But you know, a lot of people suspect Facebook as stuff, and I don't think it's that. I think it's just the Facebook is looking at it as a legal reason, and they're looking at it as doxing. So we're basically putting people out there again before they do the crime, which, you know, in America is technically, you know, you're innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
Even though we have all the facts and we know these guys and we're 100% knowing it's these people we're talking to, but legally Facebook is shutting it down because of that. But when it comes to your group and you're just exposing sex trafficking, I don't know. I don't really got an answer for that because Facebook is weird. I mean, my page is shadow banned right now, so you cannot find my page unless you physically search for it.
Right. Which, by the way, to those of you that don't know, it is DFW exposures. So, and you'll see like a little man with a hat, white background, best page in the world.
Well, I appreciate it.
It is a good page. And also, to those of you that are listening and y'all decide to follow that page, I'm going to go ahead and step in and say that if you get an everyone post or an @everyone post and you don't like those, there's a function that you could just mute that. Don't complain.
I never understand why people get so mad about that.
I don't either.
It's like, I'm in groups where I get tagged by everyone, and I'm just like, oh, it's just one notification. It's not that big of a deal.
Right. It's just, you know, I mean, sometimes you have to tag everyone and things just so everybody is aware, but sometimes I guess people don't like that. So if you don't like it, I mean, Facebook is smart enough to have a function to where you can mute that. You just have to do a little bit of extra looking, but it's there. Yep. So do you have anybody that you see as like a mentor or anyone who's inspired you for stuff like this? Like Chris Hansen, maybe?
I'll say everybody will say Chris Hansen. I actually know Chris Hansen on a personal level now.
Yeah.
I met him. I've talked to him. He knows what we're doing. And actually, when I got arrested, he posted a video about me on his YouTube page, which you can find on our YouTube. It's DFW Exposures on YouTube. He basically compares me to another YouTuber. I can't think of the YouTuber name. It's like DDVP something. Big giant guy that got caught trying to meet with a 14-year-old. He compares our similar situations and how I'm the one facing felony charges, but this guy tried to be with a 14-year-old. He's walking free. But you should check it out. Yeah, but definitely Chris Hansen.
Yeah. What's really funny about that is, so we did, and that's kind of a really good segue into what I was going to ask. So we did a series back in May and June of last year called Minding the Beehive. And to those of you that are listening that don't know about that series, maybe, I don't know, get out from underneath the rock. But also, it basically goes into a full exposure on one serial rapist that was committing acts from Arizona all the way across to Maryland and even in New York. His name is Adrian Vildesea. And the unfortunate update is that he was put in jail and arrested, and it said no bond. And we were thinking that maybe the judge in that would be a little bit more compassionate. I don't know if that's the right word, but because she was a female, and as a female myself, like I would not want to put somebody like that out on the street. But he was able to get out on bond. And this fool is now walking the street once again on dating sites trying to get his next victim. The the thing about Chris Hansen is he also is doing some kind of docuseries with the ladies from the Minding the Beehive series. So I just thought that was kind of an interesting tidbit. But I know I reached out to you and asked you about your thoughts on that series, and what are your biggest takeaways, and do you have anything to say to some of these victims, being somebody that advocates for them?
It's hard. I mean, it's so hard to see someone do so wrong to somebody and then just be released on the streets. So as a victim and a victim myself, you got to talk about it. I mean, that's the best thing is if you talk about it. There's a lot of people out there that you'd be surprised if I'd do the same thing. Even as a male myself, you find out there's a lot of guys that have been through the same stuff. But I mean, it's hard to say what to say to a victim because everybody's different. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So we all take it different, and I don't want to sound like an asshole. It's just I really don't know what to say anymore. Yeah. No, it's so hard to.
Yeah, because like so many of these people are just getting away with it, and it really just says a lot about our justice system where, you know, they prioritize things that will, I guess, make them money over somebody's like actual well-being. And what I've seen whenever I interviewed some of these ladies, and from the interviews that I've been doing, is a whole lot of trauma and unresolved issues and PTSD, dissociation, even suicidal ideation in a lot of cases. And yet our society is like, they'll be all right. And that personally infuriates me. And to hear that he is just walking free, I just am really having a lot of hope. And I know he's probably going to be listening to this, and that's fine. Go ahead and keep downvoting me and rate me negatively. That's fine, because I mean, I fully believe that what's done in the dark does come to light, and he's going to get his. But I just feel like we all should keep pushing and pushing and pushing.
Definitely. I mean, it's sad that there's those people out there downvoting you. I mean, we have the same issue. Yeah. People we expose and their family members, they come and attack our page.
Mm-hmm. Sympathizers. It's good to be a sympathizer if you are sympathizing for the right reasons.
Yep.
So we are about to be diving into a massive series this June, like the middle of June. Kind of expanding on that, but we're also going to be talking a little bit about trafficking and sextortion. Have you had any experience with either of those things? I know you kind of alluded a little bit to the sextortion thing.
Yeah, I mean, I believe I have witnessed sex trafficking myself, but sextortion is, I mean, I feel like I see that every time I come across a pedophile. Yeah. Especially when, they're just trying to blackmail people or make someone feel bad. Even with the 14-year-old, let's put it this way: like I'm talking to a guy currently on Whisper, and he's been trying to get this girl to send pictures of herself to him, which we don't ever send any type of nudes. But he's like, if you don't send this, I'm gonna find your mom and tell her everything you're on here, and basically trying to blackmail her into sending pictures. I mean, that's a type of sextortion, I believe. Yeah. But with I mean, when it comes to trafficking, you live in the DFW area, right? Yep. Okay, so the DFW area is super bad, and there's these hotels around here, or motels, you should say, that are known sex trafficking areas, and police are doing nothing about it too. Which is just pretty disgusting. I don't know how much I can really dig into it. So, for example, we had a girl go missing in the North Fort Worth area, and this was a couple months ago, and the mom contacted our page, and she's like, I believe my daughter is at this hotel. So we have pictures of her with this guy and is by this white van, and it's outside his motel. So I drove up there. I found the white van, and I found two Hispanic guys with multiple children. Like young, I won't say children, I would say teen girls. And when I confronted them, it was a big old thing. The kids ran off. They ran off. I called the cops. The cops showed up, and they basically told me straight up, this is like a known sex trafficking area and all that, but there's no crime that we can arrest these guys for, which was really confusing. Yeah, and one happened to be this missing girl, that the mom got her kid back, but the guy still weren't arrested. If that makes any sense. It's confusing.
That is confusing. That makes no sense. Like, you see the crime occurring, but you can't do anything about it.
And this is what they told me. They said they did not witness a crime themselves, even though these young girls were with these guys, and this girl was already had a missing report on her. So they let the guys drive off right in front of me.
That's infuriating.
Yeah.
I live in Fort Worth. I am sure that you've probably heard the gossip from back in like 2016, 2017 that the Ridgemar Mall is actually a hub for sex trafficking.
I actually have. I have only lived here since 2020, so I have not heard this.
Yeah. So I actually worked there for a time, and then we ended up picking up and moving our location elsewhere. But everybody was warning me about it. Well, then fast forward to like after I had my child, she was about 6 months old, and I kept telling my husband that we're going to avoid that mall at all costs. But we did have to go to pay for my wedding ring. And we get there with my child, and the gossip was that it was a little old lady that would come and try to like walk up and touch your baby's face. And then as soon as you look away, because she would distract you, you look back and the little old lady and your child are gone, and that she's working with sex traffickers. And I won't go into too much of it here, but basically, long story short, that very same narrative was attempted on us. Like, we both ended up like, okay, we're going to go. We're leaving right now. I saw two men. One of them was right next to K Jewelers, just like kind of creepily staring at us. And the other one was just kind of watching us while he was on his phone. And I was like, and I looked at my husband. I was like, look, with my eyes, and he saw it and he was like, yep, let's go. I'm done eating.
That's crazy.
It was just, it could have been a coincidence, but I just thought that was insanely coincidental after it's fit the whole gossip. So
yeah, definitely.
One other thing, anybody that's listening, and if you live in the DFW area, maybe avoid Ridgemar Mall if it's still even going on anymore.
I mean, don't let nothing distract you from your kids, not even your phone. Exactly. I tell people that all the time. There's too many people that I can see walking around with their head in their phone and their kids next to them, and they're not paying attention.
Right.
It's like,
yeah, there's better things going on than your phone anyway. So.
Yeah, 100%.
So let's touch up a little bit on advocacy and ethics real quick. So there's a big discussion going on in the true crime world about advocacy and ethics. And I know you're not exactly a true crime podcaster, but I would still love to hear your perspective on that, how you feel about true crime podcasts, how you feel about true crime documentaries and things like that, because I do know that there's a right and a wrong way to do them. And I personally feel like sensationalism should be avoided because you really got to kind of be victim centric. But basically, how do you feel about, like, say you are able to expose somebody for victimizing somebody, right? Say that victim story gets put out like in the media. The big conversation is about ethics and advocacy. And one of the big things about ethics is these media companies like to try to monetize off of the worst day of somebody's life.
Oh, yeah.
Or they will dramatize or sensationalize it just so they can get views. And when they really should be just raising awareness more than anything. Have you encountered anything that has kind of made you cringe in that sense, and people being unethical or not really being advocacy focused?
I mean, definitely. I feel like that's all over the place. When you mention media just wants to be the first person to put the news out. And it could be ruining someone's life. I mean, it could be an innocent person's life they're just ruining. They don't care. They just want the news or they want the money for it. But when it comes like the true crime podcast, I feel like it's not a race to get the content out. It's more going into the details of the stories, and I mean I feel like that's stuff that's already in the past, and people are talking about. I mean, they're more factual, if that makes sense. I don't really keep up to date with like the news and all that kind of stuff because of that reason.
Yeah.
But I try to stay in my own corner with this kind of stuff. If it's not something that I've seen personally, I don't really believe it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
like I say, it's a hard topic for me because I don't really keep up with that kind of stuff. I'm sorry, that's not the best answer, but
no, it's perfectly fine. So my final 2 questions. First of all, with DFW exposures, is it just limited to DFW, or will you expand out a little bit? Like, I noticed that you talked about somebody out of Oklahoma, so
yeah. I mean, it is we have new pages. I have a page for Austin. I have a page for San Antonio, El Paso, Tyler, Texas, Austin, Texas. If you just look up like your city, like Austin, Texas exposures, we're on there and all that. So we are expanding slowly. I don't do St. Louis or Illinois no more because of that incident where they had me arrested. I just stay away from that area. Yeah. Unfortunately. But yeah, we are expanding. And if there's a guy that will talk to our decoy from Washington State, we're going to talk to him and try to get him to drive down here. I mean, I've had people drive 9-10 hours to come meet a 14-year-old girl before. So it's not like we're limited here, but mostly we're going to be in the DFW.
All right. And then do you happen to have any like links or foundations or anything like that, like any GoFundMe's going on that you would like to go ahead and shout out real quick, or anything like that you would like for people to go follow up, and any calls to action?
I mean, we don't really have a GoFundMe. I'm not really in it for the money at all. So we do.
Right, but I mean, you might need funds to like help you, like, you know, get.
We do. I lost some of my camera equipment. Actually, we got one of the pedos broke our camera equipment. So we are we sell T-shirts on our page. That's the best thing for us, because we like to give back somehow with some money people give us. So if you buy a T-shirt, it goes back into DFW. We do have a Cash App that's DFW Exposures. Sometimes people donate there. We are working on a website, and I used to have a nonprofit, but again, once that arrest happened, we shut it down. But I am working on starting a new.
Nice. You see any podcasting in your future? I know you said once that you've been a podcaster before, but
yeah, I used to do podcasting back in St. Louis. We talked about it. I kind of want to do a podcast to talk to victims and get their story. The show, you know, is not the end once you're a victim or survivor. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're good.
But I do want to start a podcast with that. It may happen here shortly. It may not. Because I have talked to a few other victims. I get mixed opinions about it. Some say they will love it, and some say they'll absolutely hate hearing other people's stories. So I'm not too sure how to go about it as right now.
I will tell you that it is a good thing to be able to offer your platform to survivors that do want to talk. You're going to always get those people that don't want to hear about it. And while that's unfortunate, you know, that'll just show you what kind of listener base that you want. But getting those stories out there is very important, and especially if you can get it from the source, that's even more impactful to help others avoid being in a victimized type of situation too. So,
I mean, regardless, exactly. I've heard before. It's like, since I'm a male figure, that it actually helps more for the fight, because not many male figures are helping out with that, if that makes sense.
It does. Well, for whatever it's worth, I can tell you for sure that Amanda and I have your back, whatever. And I really want to thank you so much for joining me today for this interview. And if you have any final thoughts, you can lay them out there. Otherwise, we'll just sign off and let everybody know to go visit DFW Exposures.
Yeah, no, I just appreciate the exposure for us. And if you guys do follow us, please help share the post, because a lot of guys, we're about to post someone today that's already on the sex offenders list that caught last year by the FBI. He got caught in the sting operations, and he might be meeting up with me today, but we can't get his identity 100%. So it's like, the more people get on our page and share the post, it's going to help us identify these people, because once again, we're shadow banned. So if you share it, it helps us get the exposure out.
Right. All right. Well, John Anonymous, thank you so much. John Anonymous.
I appreciate it.
Always remember, with that, bees are strong resilient, yet vulnerable. Without bees, we as a human race are doomed. So, be vigilant, for when you mess with the bees, you get the hive.
Thank you for listening to A Nefarious Nightmare. Music used in the theme was originally recorded by Ghost Stories Incorporated, remixed by Ryan RCX Murphy. Additional background music is provided by Epidemic Sound. A Nefarious Nightmare is scripted, researched, and produced by Courtney Finner and Amanda Cronin. This podcast is a Cloud 10 podcast managed by Sim Sarna, Sahiba Krieger, and Jamie Rice of Murderish and Dirty Money Moves. You can help us grow our show by leaving us a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Or you can join our Patreon for lighthearted bonus content. Thank you, and as always, be vigilant.